Flynn enters the press briefing room at the White House on February 1, 2017, by Jabin. The Washington Post. Getty images. The conspicuous lack of charges against Michael Flynn and Michael G. Flynn, despite reports that Robert Mueller already has enough evidence to arrest the former national security advisor and his son, invites the obvious question: has the elder Flynn already turned state's witness? The tantalizing possibility that Flynn, like George Papadopoulos, has flipped, gained new currency last week when a New York Times reported that Flynn's lawyer, Robert Mueller, had ended an agreement to share relevant information about the ongoing Justice Department investigation with Donald Trump's legal team, a move that could presage a new arrangement with Mueller. Jay Sekulow, an attorney for Trump, dismissed that interpretation at the time, telling the Washington Post, "No one should draw the conclusion that this means anything about General Flynn cooperating against the president." But a new report that Mueller met with members of the special counsel's team suggests that Flynn has, in fact, cut some kind of deal. According to ABC News, Mueller visited Mueller's offices in Washington, D.C., on Monday, a development that could indicate the two sides are discussing a plea deal. Mueller declined to comment on the meaning of the meeting. That could have far-reaching implications for the president and members of his campaign. Of the many Trump-world characters ensnared in Mueller's probe, Flynn is perhaps one of the most pivotal. Not only does he lay claim to some of the most questionable Russian contacts, but he could also prove to be immeasurably valuable in revealing whether the Trump campaign colluded with the Kremlin to derail Hillary Clinton's candidacy. If anyone knows where the bodies are buried, it's the man who acted as a key advisor to Trump during his insurgent bid for the White House, the transition, and the early, tumultuous days of his presidency. Flynn's testimony could also prove critical in the matter of former FBI Director James Comey, whom Trump fired after Comey declined to curtail his investigation into Flynn. Comey's dismissal, by Trump's own admission, was prompted by the Russia investigation, though how exactly that relates to Comey's interest in Flynn remains to be seen. An obstruction of justice case requires a corrupt motive, a corrupt intent, as Kendall Coffey, who was a Florida U.S. attorney during the Clinton administration, recently told my colleague Chris Smith. How much did Trump know about Flynn's conduct? What were their conversations? Did Trump tell Flynn that he was getting a lot of help from the Russian government? What Flynn is willing to say likely depends on what Mueller already knows. It has already been reported that Flynn belatedly registered as a foreign agent for more than $500,000 worth of lobbying work he did on behalf of the Turkish government. He is also being scrutinized for his appearance at a gala for a state-owned Russian media outlet, for which he was paid $33,000. His failure to disclose a trip to the Middle East as part of a broader plan to build nuclear plants in the region, and for his alleged role in a bizarre plot to kidnap Muslim cleric Fethullah Gulen, which his lawyer has denied. There appear to be potentially indictable cases with respect to Flynn's security forms, Coffey added. But if Flynn was negotiating with the Turkish government to assist in the removal of a political opponent, that couldn't be ignored by Mueller, and it's the kind of thing that can't be thoroughly examined quickly. Whatever leverage Mueller has over Flynn, however, may be less compelling than his focus on Flynn's son, who served as de facto chief of staff at his father's lobbying firm. Sources who spoke to ABC News said that if the former national security advisor had decided to work with a special counsel, it would likely be to take the pressure off his namesake in a third-party credit deal, wherein prosecutors offer leniency to another person in exchange for the principal subject's cooperation. Flynn may be the most dangerous player in Mueller's most wanted card deck, and, with his son in potential legal jeopardy, also the most unpredictable. So far, the White House has been able to spin allegations of Russian collusion as hysterical and overblown. Donald Trump, Jr. was too inexperienced to know better when he was approached by a Russian intermediary peddling dirt on Clinton. Jared Kushner was too overwhelmed by emails and meetings to make mental notes of all his contacts with Russian officials. Paul Manafort was indicted for alleged crimes predating the election, and George Papadopoulos, who recently pleaded guilty to lying to FBI agents, was just a low-level volunteer and a coffee boy. But Flynn, the former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency under President Barack Obama, would not have been naive, for example, about his conversations with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak, for which he was fired. Perhaps he was reckless. Flynn's various alleged lobbying schemes after being pushed out of DIA are not indicative of an entirely mind. It seems incredible that Flynn wouldn't have known his contact with a Russian official was being recorded. He may have been corrupt. But he should not have been ignorant of what is now evident, that the Russian government was making an all-out push to compromise, recruit, influence, or collude with multiple members of the Trump campaign simultaneously. Whether any of those efforts crossed the line into criminal behavior remains for Mueller to determine.